All right, you guys, we're going to jump right into this one. A fellow named Jared hit me up, wanted me to take a look at a picture for him and get this rocking with him. So we're going to bring this into Topaz. It was a real small picture. I asked him for a larger picture and waiting for his response. I'll go ahead and just start recording this. But while I just want to show you, this was just a really blurry picture that he sent me on Facebook Messenger. And obviously, we'd like to start off with something nicer, but I want to show you kind of what this Topaz Photo AI does. And not just this brand, but other ones. There's online ones you can do as well. But you'll see here in a moment when it starts recovering the faces and enhancing it. But you can see right there, boom, just the difference in detail. I mean, it's making some guesses, calculated guesses, but, that's what it got from that. So let's go ahead and just crop it now. And then when we save it, we'll just bring it right into another software that I have. Apply that. Redo the AI, the enhancements. Now it's taking that sweet. Oh, there we go. All right. Let's go ahead and just save that. It's a grayscale already, but let's bring it into, I want to see if I can apply some different filters to it. Maybe clean it up a little bit, but sometimes there's nothing we can do. You can obviously see the AI kind of took a few liberties here, but sometimes, we can kind of get some of these filters to help bring out different aspects of the face, or maybe even separate the back head of this gentleman. We want to try to keep as much of, I don't think any of these filters are really going to give us a hand in that department, but it was worth a shot. So this is, I'm just walking through what I would normally do. This isn't bad. Maybe in this, like I said, I'm not some sort of Photoshop expert, or even claim to be, but let's roll with that. So what we'll do now is we'll just bring that right into Aspire. Close that out. So that's saving. Aspire will be opening up, and let's just create a new file. I cancel out of that. Sorry. I'm holding down the shift key, wanting to get the highest resolution. Didn't work that time. That's all right. Let's just back out of it again. My keyboard sometimes disconnects. There we go. So for a photo, I mean, something that size, something of that quality, let's just do something that's about, I don't know, 14 inches wide by 18. That's a guess. OBS eats up a lot of the resources of my laptop for filming, so it makes everything else a little bit slower. So let's just bring this in. That actually worked out. It's actually a little grainier than I anticipated, but we'll work with it. It's a lot of dark. So on something about this size, let's go ahead and just start with a 60. There's nothing special here. Most of the work comes from from editing the photo. That's honestly the one thing that's going to help you the most. Some photos are just automatically just really easy to work with. Other ones you need to manipulate them and get. Let's just start at 100 here. So these are. Let me just go back to my settings here. So these are typically. I typically start off with 0.07, and remember I'm in inches, so 0.07 depth. The step over doesn't make a whole lot of difference here, but you want to make sure you're clearing your surface. So if you're not sure, make your step over a little bit higher. I think that's just the safety. Anyways, let's just move on from that. I'm a moron. 60-degree V-bit. I use Cody's from Cadence Manufacturing. I use his downcut Jenny. I'm trying to speed through this. Sorry, other videos I've been long-winded. Let's start off with 100% spacing. On this side, let's just kind of see what it does, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And so let's just label this one 6007. And we'll just take a peek at it. And so here's basically what I do. I mean, I haven't done this picture yet. I'm doing this for the first time, and the end result would be, what I would end up having to do. Sometimes pictures come out amazing, and sometimes they don't. And like this would be, first time with a decent picture. There's just a lot of, there's just a lot of dark area, which makes it tough. And so you might be asking, like, well, why'd you pick that filter earlier and not just keep it the way it was? I wanted something to kind of help take focus away from all the black, the negative space here. And so when you have details in the face that you can kind of focus on, and not just like, hey, that giant forehead is white, and the cheeks are white, and the tip of the chin is white, and his shirt is white. With that amount of detail, and if you know how to sand it properly, you can keep all that in there. And it really does help keep the focus on the face, as opposed to how much darkness is around the outside and how there's lack of any kind of any kind of patterns or any kind of shapes in the background. It's kind of void. And a lot of that is just because of the photo. But a lot of times, you're working with these photo carves, that's all you got. You got an old picture of grandpa that, one of your aunts had, and you really didn't know him, or it's not your grandpa, it's someone else's grandpa, right? Or it could be your grandpa or great grandfather or anybody. Sometimes that's the only photo people have, and, it's nice to know how to manipulate them to save them and preserve them. So I take a lot of pride in that. I try to add some artsy to it, and like understanding, once I explain to people kind of how the process works, I think it helps them understand how to design these a little better. And with that, the confidence to take a few more challenging carves. They're not all going to be perfect. And obviously we're going to make some adjustments to this one, but this is just an example, and it's not bad actually. On these larger photo carves, 14 inches wide and up, you get a little more, there's a little more grace, and the sander shows a little more mercy here. And so, if you know what you're doing, you can really make this pop. And obviously it'll amber a little bit with a clear over. This is what MDF, what it would look like. But let's go ahead and give it another shot with another parameter. So let's go ahead and take that down to 94, same depth. Well, actually, let's keep the same depth, or not the same depth, but the same line spacing at 100. Let's make this 0.5 depth, just so we can see the difference, and we'll keep that at 100. And I really don't want to get any narrower because of how much dark there is. All these little ridges will start snapping off once we start sanding. Made a mistake. So here's the 0.05. Let's see what this one looks like in the preview. I think it's going to give us a little more detail, but I've been wrong. So yeah, so you can see it actually has a lot more detail. The lines don't need to get down as deep, and therefore the spaces between the white grow bigger. And so all these are going to be, these white areas are all the tips of the ridges. And when we're sanding, those are our friends. And you can see like in the black area, there has to be ridges because you can't, it's not going to just have you shape them all out or carve them all out. So it leaves some ridges, but when you're sanding, they're so thin that you snap them off. And so a lot of times you end up having to wipe on with like a rag or something really very gently after you snap these off and kind of repaint them after you sanded. And that's kind of some of the other stuff that we'll go over in another video for some of the different sanding techniques. But both of these aren't bad. It really just comes down to how comfortable you are with sanding and just the prep work you do after. I would probably, if I had to choose between these two settings, I would probably go with this one, the 0.05 depth. And yeah, I mean, it looks good. You know, what happens and what separates a lot of these from looking good is, yeah, it's a shallow depth, 0.05 inches, you know, in these little tiny spaces. But once you understand how to sand and you're barely taking off that thinnest layer, and then there's a sacrificial coat of shellac underneath that if you know how to sand to just the shellac, you're golden. And that's, you know, that's why the latex paint that I try to get everybody to use to paint these with, just house paint, works so much nicer. But that's neither here nor there. We can make this look just like this, with some really good black paint. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be awesome. So let's go ahead and just open up these settings. So this one was on a 60-degree V-bit, 0.05 depth, 0.04 step over retract. It's a raster. The line spacing is at 100. The angle is at -45. Let's see what it looks like at the other side. Let's just go 47. We'll redo this. Sometimes on photos, if you can't get them to look quite right, sometimes just switching the angle makes the world of difference. And you start noticing that even before you load them up. You'll kind of prep yourself for, depending on how the face is and angle of the camera and stuff like that, you can kind of help, the lines will help. So like this one isn't bad because the lines go with the jacket. And so actually between the two, it's a smarter carve. You're going to have less tear out breaking in these areas down in here in the shoulder, because you'll be able to sand. Well, you can sand in any direction. You're not going to have breakout anyways, but it just flows with the jacket and the face, the neckline. I'm over here pointing at my camera or my screen like you guys can see me, but right here in the neckline, you know, it just all kind of goes together, thins his face out a little bit. You know, it all looks good. The glasses, you know, kind of matches up with the arm there on the glasses. And yeah, either one of those angles are pretty good. You're probably looking at it for this size about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half. So yeah, man, if you got any questions, that's kind of what, you know, that's where I would start off at, especially if you haven't done many of them. This will be pretty, the black areas will be challenging. I would just say go back to some of my other videos that have a lot of black, and then watch how quick. I remember some of those videos, you got to remember they're sped up 4 times. And so usually it takes about 4 minutes for me to sand something that's about 24 inches by 24. It takes about 4 minutes. So when you're watching me sand, just think that it's a quarter of that time. And I do have some where I'm recording at regular speed, but I'm not sure if those are on videos with all black backgrounds. But see, on these black areas, you have to move real quick in those dark areas, because you want to leave as much of the black paint on those ridges. You'll sand some of it off, but you'll obviously need to start sanding really quickly. I would actually start right here. If I was going to start sanding, I would start at the tie, because you're going to sand completely down to the raw MDF or your sacrificial coating of shellac right here in this area where there's not a whole lot of lines. And you'll be able to use the side of your board as a reference so you can see how far to sand and when the color starts changing. Because once it looks like this, you've gone too far. So you just want to barely get the black off, and then you're going to start seeing the amber of the shellac. And once you see that, you want to kind of just, that's where you start moving away from this area and up into the face. And you want to keep the sander moving in a circular pattern over his face, and but make sure you're getting the face, because you're not gonna be able to sand a lot around the outside. So you have to plan sanding this guy's face around that, because once you get the sander too, you can't sand this area, the dark areas, the same way you sand the faces. A lot of the issue that I see that people have is that reason. They start sanding the dark area. You can't sand these areas. You're going to start making these turn into the face. You're going to, these areas that are dark will no longer be dark. They'll start looking like the face. And now the face and the background match. And that's when you start, everything starts looking real blobby. But that's a sanding video. But this right here, this setting, I'd rock with that one. Yeah. And I'll take a screenshot, send these back to you, bud. Enjoy, and reach out if you have any other questions. And those, anybody else, if you guys have a photo you want me to just kind of run through real quick on like the editing process and how I kind of choose pictures. I guess I'm not really choosing pictures here, but I'm just taking pictures people have and seeing what I can do with them. But if you got a picture you want me to try to take care of for you, let me know. Send it over to me, or message me, and we'll arrange that. But yeah, man, Jarrod, good luck with this, man. I would run this. This is actually pretty safe. There's a lot of room for mercy here. There's a lot of grace, being that with that depth, it's going to give us a little more area to work with that we're not going to sand through. And just keep the sander moving. Start off with like a 220 in the face. After you do a bunch of carves and you kind of understand how much pressure, move your way down to like a 120. But yeah, I'd start off with the 220 right here, right in the shirt, so you can get your base, so you have a reference, and then start working up from there. And then obviously just lightly sand around the black areas. All right, man. God bless you, man. Good luck.